Penn State Nittany Lions took care of business last night and took care of business against Boise State. And the game kind of played out pretty much how you expected the game to play out. That Boise State was going to battle because they play hard. If Ashton Genty didn't have a big-time monster performance, then Boise State was going to be up against it. But ultimately, Penn State was the better team. They were favored by 11, 12 points, whatever it closed at, going into the game for a reason, and Penn State got it done. And so what we've gotten thus far through the first 5 games of the college football playoff, this new expanded 12-team college football playoff, what we've gotten is basically chalk. You've gotten all the results that you expected, and you've gotten, for the most part, pretty uncompetitive games. And so the feeling would be, all right, well, then what was the point of this? I mean, I thought this was supposed to add some intrigue. I thought this was supposed to add a new layer to college football. I thought the college football playoff was supposed to give us a different viewpoint and a different look and a different vibe when it comes to the entire thing. So what was the point? And my pushback on that would be, what's the complaint? Like, there is no guarantees that when you go into this thing that you're going to get good games. There's no guarantees. And I got news for you. There's no guarantees you're going to get good games whenever you turn on football or basketball or baseball. Like, there's no guarantees. You ever gone to a movie, walked in, been like, man, really excited about this thing. Half hour in, you're like, this sucked out loud. It happens. Now, you could be one of those people who walks up to the person who ripped your ticket, who probably doesn't want to be there anyways, and be like, hey, movie didn't live up to my expectations. Can I get my $13.25 back? And by the way, the popcorn was a little dry. You could take that approach. You could be one of those nerds who, after Manny Pacquiao fought Floyd Mayweather and people shelled out $100 to watch the fight, who went and complained afterwards and said, I paid $100 for this, and it didn't live up to my expectations. Okay. And then they found out Manny Pacquiao had like a torn rotator cuff, and they thought, you know what? He should have disclosed that before the fight, because otherwise I would have felt a lot differently about shelling out my $100. Dude, what are you bitching about? If the guy didn't fight, you would have complained then if he would have pulled out last minute and canceled. But this is the problem when it comes to college football. No matter what, you're going to have a complaint. Because I got news for you. It could have been a 12-team playoff. It could have been a 16-team playoff. You could have thrown in 20 teams. Christ, you could have done a 64-team field like college basketball, and somebody somewhere would have found a way to complain. Because that's what it is. That's what college football has bred. Complaints. Like, every single story that comes out of college football, somebody's on the opposite side pounding the table against it. Cam Ward decides, hey, you know what? I want to go chase a record, and then I want to sit out the second half. How dare he? Wait, what? It was a Pop-Tarts bowl. Like, you literally had an unhealthy toasted strudel jump out of a giant fake toaster at the end of the game, and people were pissed because some guy didn't participate in all of it. What are we talking about here? Did you see the Cheez-It Bowl yesterday? You had people get married at the Cheez-It Bowl. It's the Cheez-It Bowl. Like, there was a guy sitting in a jacuzzi filled with crackers talking about the snack, not trying to win an Antonio Brown award. But if he wants to hand out any more of those, I'll gladly accept. But the point is, no matter what, there's going to be a complaint and there's going to be a problem. And I looked at last night, VAR, and I thought to myself, you know what? Hey, Penn State took care of business. Boise State played hard. But I would not rather go back to a 4-team college football playoff, because at least you gave the underdog a chance in that spot.
I mean, they weren't the underdog. They were ranked higher. They came in seeded higher. They had a bye week because of what they accomplished during the season. I think that there's going to always be debates of why people like something and why they don't. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any topics. Like, nobody's ever going to get a perfect scenario for a playoff. And you're not always like, to me, I've been really thinking about this, right? It's like they're saying their commitment is to get the best teams into into the playoff. And so there's all these different variables, your strength of schedule and stuff like that. There's all these different variables. But at the end of the day, Jonas, you set up the schedule. You know what the schedule is coming in, right? So if a team wins out with their schedule, knowing when they come into the season that it's not a schedule that's strong enough to outweigh the other schedules that are out there, then I would say you judge it based off of that if you want to try and do it based off of strength of schedule. But at the end of the day, I think, to me, if you win your conference and if you're a team that has shown with their record, if, like, say it's an independent like Notre Dame, if you've shown with your record that you should be in the playoff, then be in the playoff. And let's line them up. Let's do the playoff, and who wins wins, who loses loses. I just think that it gets crazy to me because here's the narrative. Here's the narrative. Oh, these aren't the best teams. The best teams aren't in there. Alabama should have been in there. Alabama just lost yesterday. Alabama lost. Like, oh, this team should have been in there. Miami should have been in there. Miami lost. Okay, oh, you had opt-outs. Maybe the opt-outs play. Maybe Cam Ward plays. I don't care. They lost. They lost. So there is no justification for saying some of these teams that didn't play in the playoff should have been in the playoff because some of those teams have lost their bowl games that they're playing in. So to me, if a team gets granted and earns the opportunity to be in the playoff and the bracket is made, shut the F up and enjoy the bracket. Enjoy the games. Like, what else is there to it? I don't understand why there's such outrage. If Boise beats Penn State, are people complaining? If Indiana beats Notre Dame, are people complaining? If the lower seed teams that get in beat the higher seed teams, are people still complaining? They'll probably find something different, a different narrative to complain about, but they're still going to be complaining. You're not going to make all of the pundits happy. You're not going to make all of the fans happy. You're not going to make everybody happy with what it is that the college playoff represents. So keep the number the same. I love the fact that there's a bracket and a tournament that has this many teams. I like the fact that you have matchups, and the matchups have been made by the schedule makers, by the bracket makers, the tournament makers. Just accept it for what it is and enjoy it. My God, what is all of the outrage for all of the time? It's just weird.
And for the people that are like, well, it's not the best teams. All right, well, you know how you determine the best teams? You play games during the regular season, and this is this is going to be a weird concept, but if you win a lot of those and don't lose a lot of those, you are determined to be the best team in college football. And there were teams that lost less than Miami and Alabama. Thus, they got in, and Miami and Alabama didn't. That's the way this works. I understand strength of schedule.
The best teams don't always perform well enough to make it in. Like, that's just the bottom line. They might have been a better team, but something happened that said, okay, they're not the best team, or they didn't play the best game. Like, that could have been Notre Dame with that Northern Illinois loss, right? Illinois. Like, that could have been that could have been something that kept them out. You just never know.
It's just people are so conditioned to complain and bitch about college football that they can't,
and everything.
Yeah, and they can't just let it be. Listen, there's no guarantees that you're going to get a good game every single time. And
nope.
So Penn State did what they were supposed to do. in the first two
and
games.
they were in the game.
Yes, they were, and
that was a game last night. People were nervous in that stadium. It was a game.
The game didn't look like the SMU game where SMU completely melted. I mean, they couldn't handle the conditions. They couldn't handle the stage. They looked like they were rattled from the get-go. Like, there were opportunities. Like, it wasn't a clean game for Penn State. They turned the ball over.
The ball over, yes.
But, so I came away from that going, Penn State did what they should have done, and I thought Boise State represented themselves well, but it played out how you would have expected it. If they could stop Ashton Genty, which they did for the most part, then they were going to have success. Like, I look at it and I think,
what's the beef? What's the beef?
And I think that also there's a lot of people that hold on to the narratives that you have about certain programs or coaches going into things. And you know the narrative about James Franklin. Well, he doesn't win big games. He doesn't win big games. Look at his record against this team, and this team, and blah, blah, blah. So
it's
hope
two
is,
teams.
Yeah, so
it's two teams.
So the hope is
you got beef with James Franklin over two teams. It's two teams.
So the hope is we need James Franklin to lose so we can hold on to the take that we had 3 weeks ago when they lost to Ohio State or they lost to Oregon. It's like
right. Okay.
I look at it and I think to myself, we're better off this way. And I'm one of those people that I didn't agree with expanding past 4 teams. I thought, no, 4 is fine. If you're going to do anything, go to 6, give a bye to the first 2, and then you have your semifinal. And then I start to look at it and go, first of all, I'm arguing upstream because it's more money and the money dictates everything, so it's going to happen regardless. And secondly, it's the first year. We don't know. Look, we don't know how these games. Arizona State could upset Texas. We don't know.
They could.
Is all of a sudden the college football playoff going to be worthwhile because Arizona State upsets Texas? Like, there's no guarantees you're going to get good matchups. Do you remember watching Super Bowls in the 80s? There was like a stretch to where every Super Bowl was a blowout for like 9-10 years in a row. I didn't see people complaining like, oh, they've got to redo this whole Super Bowl thing. No, you just understood, hey, best team from this conference, best team from that conference. They get together. Hopefully we get a good game, but there's no guarantees.
That's the point, Jonas. Sports are sports. Like, if you're not a decision maker for the playoff, watch the games and enjoy the games. Like, why does there have to be all these conspiracy theories? And like I said, for sports talk radios, for sports talk television, podcasting and all, I get it. But the more people try to sound smart about it, the dumber they sound. Like, let it play out. It's a game. You play the game. And if you've earned the right by what took place during the season, if you're in there, and I don't care about you arguing, well, maybe you didn't earn the right. Yeah, you did, because you're in. You got in. So if you got in, you got in. Play the games. Play the games. The brackets are the brackets. Play the games. Like, if it's what you expected, good. Bet money. If you're so brilliant, bet money and become a billionaire. Bet all your money. Go bet your house, your home, your kids, your wife, your husband, whoever. Go bet it all. If you got it so figured out, go bet it all. If these teams aren't supposed to be here that you're saying and this, that, bet it all. Go ahead, give it all up.
Hey,
let's see how confident you are.
Let me tell you something. Look, I've been pounding the table for. We've got to start building this stuff around gambling because it makes things interesting when they probably shouldn't be. And I'll say this: when Boise State was driving down the field and it looked like they were going to score that garbage time touchdown, that would have impacted a significant amount of bets who had Penn State minus 11. They're holding on to that 17-point lead, and people are sweating their balls off thinking to themselves, oh, God, I'm going to lose here on a garbage time touchdown. But Penn State picked it off in the end zone, and it saved the day. Find something compelling about it. If you get a plain piece of chicken at a restaurant, ask for some hot sauce. Gambling is the hot sauce of sports, and people need to start embracing it. For Christ's sake.
I love that. That's a T-shirt.
Damn right.
If you don't like a regular wing, get some dipping sauce.
Yeah, because if you don't put buffalo sauce on a wing, what is it? It's a damn drumstick. Make it a buffalo wing. Unbelievable.
Oh man, that is a shirt.
By the way, well, we'll save. We'll get details from you throughout the course of the show on what Arizona looked like out there.
Arizona was, bro, it was New Year's Eve. It's New Year's Day.
Work.
All I can tell you is, if you've ever been to Scottsdale, Arizona,
Sheesh.
and on a regular day, on a regular weekend, they call it Sunday Fun Day around here, because Sunday is like the day that's like they're deemed Friday or Saturday for most places, right? If you've ever been here for that, you know what the environment is in
Yeah.
Scottsdale.
They're-
I've never been here for New Year's. I've never been here for New Year's, and I ain't never coming back. And I don't know why I'm doing this show today.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
But there's a reason why a lot of retired baseball players retire in Arizona, because they go out there for spring training during the course of their career and they go, you know what?
It's the taxes. They come out here. It's purely because of the taxes.
That's right. It's that blonde tax.
OMG.
It's that silicone tax. Damn.
Man, damn. They called the mountain out here Camelback Mountain. And they got it right. They got it right. God dang it, they got it right.